Look, we hear a ton of hype about artificial intelligence these days, but we rarely get to actually peek under the hood and see what separates a flimsy novelty AI tool from a truly robust, production-ready system. So today, we're going to demystify exactly how high-value AI applications are built from the ground up. And we'll be using the immigration tech platform Meritocrat as our ultimate case study to figure it out. Over the last couple of years, the tech landscape has completely shifted, right? We now have these incredible AI tools that can summarize evidence, research legal questions, and draft entire documents in seconds. But here's the catch. As models from OpenAI, Claude, and Gemini get extraordinarily capable, everyone essentially has access to the exact same raw brain power. So if we're all tapping into the same underlying intelligence, what actually gives a company a competitive edge? What makes one platform fundamentally different from another? Well, the answer is that the true competitive advantage isn't the raw AI itself.
Let's look at this through a really simple metaphor. Think of raw models, your OpenAIs, your Claudes, your Geminis, strictly as engines. Now, an engine can produce tremendous horsepower, sure, but sitting by itself on the factory floor, it doesn't actually take you anywhere. To travel from point A to point B, you absolutely have to build the car around that engine. And that right there is exactly what separates a generic copy-paste AI wrapper from a highly valuable, indispensable product. To put that into perspective, imagine a pristine, multi-million-dollar Formula One engine just sitting in the middle of a garage. It's completely useless on its own. It still needs steering, brakes, a transmission, sensors, navigation, safety systems, and a dashboard. And, most importantly, it needs a coordination system so the driver can actually reach their destination. AI applications face this exact same challenge. The underlying model might reason incredibly well, but it's totally stranded without the surrounding systems to actually guide it.
Okay, moving into section 1. Immigration is a journey. Moving beyond one-shot AI. You know, it is incredibly tempting for developers to just slap a powerful language model onto immigration software and casually call it an AI platform. Upload a document, ask the model to evaluate it, draft a petition, write a quick letter. I mean, those are neat tricks, sure, but they're just individual, isolated tasks. And immigration is absolutely not a collection of isolated tasks. Complex, high-stakes domains are never solved by a single prompt. Building a real product means starting with the person and guiding them through a massive, highly structured journey. Think about it. It starts with the applicant, what opportunities actually fit them. Then that moves to assessment. Okay, what are we claiming? Then strategy and research, finding the facts and evidence that prove those claims, and spotting missing documents. Then, crucially, it requires attorney review. Only after all of that do you finally reach filing readiness and drafting. Having an AI just draft a document, that's just one tiny step tacked onto the very end of a much larger process. Which brings us to section 2. Enter the agent harness, the system that drives the car.
So how do you actually manage that massive journey we were just talking about? Well, this is where the agent harness comes in as this critical coordination layer. If the language model is our engine, the agent harness is the navigation and the transmission combined. It does the invisible, ongoing thinking. Instead of giving a user 20 different confusing AI buttons to click, the harness constantly asks itself, okay, what should happen next? If the goal is an EB-1A visa readiness assessment, the system actively analyzes the background, maps out the evidence, and spots gaps. It's making active decisions about which tool to use, what evidence to actually trust, and what previous decisions it needs to remember to achieve that big picture goal.
But equally important is this follow-up question. When should the system stop? A brilliant AI product knows its own limits. The harness determines when it's literally run out of data, when it needs to pause and ask the applicant a specific, clarifying question, or when a human attorney desperately needs to step in and review the strategy. It doesn't just run blindly forever. It orchestrates the whole workflow around the ultimate objective.
We call this continuous case reasoning. A real AI product adapts because, well, life adapts. Cases naturally evolve over time. Maybe a researcher publishes a new paper, or an entrepreneur raises a fresh round of funding, an executive gets industry recognition, a patent is cited. A simple one-shot AI chatbot just treats a user like a frozen snapshot in time. But a sophisticated agent harness, it constantly reassesses. It's always asking, wait, does this new evidence create a new claim? Are we closer to filing readiness now? It breathes and evolves with the applicant's real-world progress.
Let's dive into section 3, traceability and human judgment, the steering and brakes for AI. Because generative AI can produce text so cheaply and easily these days, the absolute most valuable thing in tech right now is traceability. If a paragraph appears in a legal petition, you must be able to trace it backward, period. The paragraph has to point back to the claim.
The claim relies on a specific fact. That fact is supported by evidence, and the evidence is inextricably linked to a concrete, verifiable source. Meritocrat actually builds its narratives directly from this kind of evidence-backed case model. Let me tell you, that is infinitely safer than just letting an AI invent a highly persuasive story and then scrambling around trying to verify if it's actually true afterward.
And this brings us to a massive pitfall that so many developers completely miss. It is a dangerous, dangerous assumption to let AI identify a potential visa criterion and then immediately treat it as an approved legal position. No way. AI should not be finalizing legal strategy. The correct flow is for the AI to make an assessment, organize the messy data, and propose possibilities, while an actual attorney makes the final decision. The AI provides the steering, sure, but the human attorney is the absolutely vital braking system.
The crucial mechanism making this happen is the approval gate. Basically, this is a system checkpoint, ensuring that legal strategy and professional judgment always receive proper human oversight. By enforcing these approval gates, the system gives attorneys far more valuable than just an automated AI writing assistant. It gives them a highly visible, structured workspace where the entire reasoning behind a case is laid out clearly for their professional review and approval.
And finally, Section 4, the real AI product, moving from uncertainty to readiness.
So this definitively answers the question we started with today. On one hand, you have the interchangeable engine, large language models, basic drafting, raw intelligence. But on the other hand, you have the unique car architecture, the specific knowledge structure, gap detection, approval gates, and provenance records. Two totally different companies can use the exact same LLM, literally the exact same engine. But the architecture they build around that intelligence, the way they sequence their agents, maintain state, and actually help a user move from uncertainty to readiness, that is what creates radically different, highly valuable products. Because at the end of the day, the engine will eventually become completely interchangeable. The car does not.
Ultimately, people don't want an engine. They want to reach their destination. The true goal here isn't just to build a slightly better AI tool. It's to build a vehicle that safely and reliably gets someone exactly where they need to go. So the next time you look at a new AI application, I want you to ask yourself, am I just looking at a shiny engine sitting on the floor, or did they actually build the car? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the architecture behind the AI you interact with every single day.